like we're saying, like with this retrospect, we're not going to go through every little bit of the company's history, but the next thing is kind of talking about the feud that in basically put them on the map. So obviously we've already said about a lot of the things that kind of help them by the way they structure the company, but obviously the company's only as good as its talent, and they kind of really land on the feet with the Jimmy Havoc versus Will Ospreay feud. So before we go into it, I just want to obviously put the disclaimer of the fact, like, we are obviously aware that one of the wrestlers that we're going to be talking about in this feud has had some pretty serious allegations leveled at him because of the speaking out movement. But I felt like we couldn't really ignore this feud because essentially without this feud, Progress would not be where it is today. This was what essentially was one of the main factors in it being a success. Do you know much about the feud at all, Garrod?
Yeah, I watched it when you I think you said to me, Garrod, you have to fucking watch this, and I was like, all right, fine. It's pretty fucking good. There's so many good like promo packages around it as well. I think there's just like 1 8-minute long promo package that they did of just the entire feud, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
It's pretty good. What I'm going to do is essentially just kind of do the setup for it, and then I've got a kind of a lead in for like how you yourselves can go and check it out. So again, like I said, the main reason Progress became a huge success was because of the feud between Jimmy Havoc and Will Ospreay. And at the time, these two were pretty much still just up-and-coming stars. But this feud helped not only put the promotion on the map, but it launched these two pretty much into the stratosphere. So the seeds of the feud would be set more or less from the second show. So despite being obviously a promotion that was predominantly wanted to be linked with strong style, Havoc, even back then he was known for his death matches, was brought in with the story being that if he was looking to prove himself and he wanted to essentially get signed by the promotion in terms of the storyline. So the following chapters would see Havoc have many hard-fought battles, but ultimately he would be on the losing end of them. Despite this, though, he was given a contract by Smallman, which guaranteed him to be a member of the Progress roster, as well as offered him a world title shot. However, Havoc would show his true colours and at chapter 9. So Havoc made the save on Smallman after the London riots did a beatdown following a tag team match. Smallman was singing Havoc's praises, but then Havoc laid Smallman out with a steel chair and would continue to beat down and cut a really scathing promo. Essentially, it kind of boiled down to Havoc thinking he was just being used by Smallman as kind of a poster child for Progress, and he didn't want to be led astray that way. There's a lot to it. I'd just recommend checking out Chapter 9 if you just want to watch out the promo package, because it is brilliant, and Smallman really does take a beating in it. The fun fact I've got around that is Smallman was very keen to do the angle with the steel chair, having always wanted to know what it would be like to take one. But Jimmy being Jimmy, though, he kind of got a bit overly keen, and there's a point where he slapped Smallman in the side of the head, and as a result of that, Smallman did lose some hearing in one of his ears because of it. Jimmy's full turn into a bastard heel would be realized at Chapter 10. So this show was, I believe, the first time they did the National Progression Series tournament, and it was won by Mark Andrews. Andrews would then immediately cash in his guaranteed world title shot against Rampage Brown, who came out to sort of goad Andrews had taken the shot then. But Andrews would score the upset win, resulting in a huge pop from the crowd. But before he could truly celebrate it, Havoc hit the ring with the London riots. The group would obviously take out Andrews and tie his tag team partner Eddie Dennis to the ring post, and Havoc demanded a title shot. Smallman refused, and that was until Havoc pulled out lighter fluid and doused it on Andrews, threatening to burn him and the whole building down if he didn't get his shot. Smallman relented, and to add insult to injury, Havoc demanded that Smallman be the one to make the free count. Havoc's dominance would continue across the following chapters with several successful title defenses. He would also find a new ally in the form of Paul Robinson, who turned his back on tag team partner Will Ospreay. I've lost my place. Will Ospreay, and he found himself in the firing line when Havoc and his crew tied Ospreay to a steel chair, chapter 13, and Havoc tried to cuff his ear, Reservoir Dog style. Ospreay would eventually earn a title shot by winning the first ever Thunder Bastard match at chapter 14, which sent them on a collision course. Again, like we said, there's a lot that we could kind of continue on, but now that I've set it up, I would just urge you to go watch the matches if you wanted to, because the whole feud is just brilliant, and they would have some absolutely tremendous matches, and it kind of runs the gamut. They had like death matches, they just had matches where it was brilliant technical ability and high flying, as well as just some great storytelling, and it, like, the pair really did push the limit of the feud to the point where they nearly got Progress kicked out of the Electric Ballroom after they did a spot where Jimmy was thrown off one of the balconies and Ospreay followed him down with a flip. It was like quite a heavily gifted and circulated clip at the time. If you want to go check it out, I've wrote down all the chapters where they have matches together. So there's chapter 15, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they aren't out to get you. Chapter 17, harder, better, faster, stronger. Chapter 18, the show we can't call Progress or Mania for legal reasons. Chapter 41, Unboxing Live. Chapter 46, I like to chill out here and shoot some dinosaurs. And chapter 75, these violent delights have violent ends. The feud resulted in Progress being firmly planted on the map and the hottest indie promotion, not only in the UK, but arguably across the globe at that point. As we said there, it made Jimmy a huge star in the scene, and he became Progress's first sort of big name associated with the brand, and he still holds the record for being the longest world champion. And of course, we don't have to really mention too much about Ospreay. He became a megastar, and it wasn't too long following this feud that he would make his way towards Japan, and now obviously he stands as kind of one of the best wrestlers on the planet. So yeah, solid feud. There is a lot to it. I mean, me describing it there doesn't really do it justice. Like, you just have to go back and watch the promos, as Garrod said. Like, all of them put in so much into this, and it's clear why this kind of helped launch Progress. It was gritty. It had the perfect players involved, and the matches were just tremendous. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree. Obviously, it's very difficult when a lot of the stars have been, and a lot of the previous matches have been tarnished with, speaking out and what happened. I guess you'll debate. You'll have to decide for yourself: art versus artist. Regardless, at the time, very good feud, and yeah, I mean, it's. I get when we're talking about people wanting the Attitude Era and things like that. This was, quite Attitude Era-y in that it was fairly bloody, fairly brutal. Nearly got them IRL kicked out of a venue.
Yep.
I don't know. I suppose it's difficult to talk about. I mean, even Ospreay has come under flack. For, I believe it was ostracizing. It might even be a strong word. I don't know exactly, but for I think he was maybe sticking up for someone who he shouldn't have been sticking up for.
Yeah.
I don't know entirely, but regardless, like you say, it still put them on the map, and you look at where those people did end up going before what happened.
Yeah. No, it is obviously one of those things, like we said at the start there with the disclaimer. Like, if you can go back and watch it because you can separate the art from the artist, then obviously feel free. Generally, we talked about some previous episode Progress. We'll get into it again in speaking out. But Progress kind of went back and edited a lot of the back catalogue. You can basically still watch all of this feud. They didn't get rid of any of these matches, bar the fact Chapter 13 isn't featured on the show. Isn't on the demand service. Sorry. That is the one where you nearly see him cut off Ospreay's ear. I would have recommended as well, they made their own sort of documentary about the whole feud called Making Enemies. That was really well done, but that's been taken down now. Probably is one of the things that they just really didn't want to keep following the speaking out allegations. But it's all there if you want to see it, and we've given you the chapter name, so we'll kind of leave it up to your own discretion if you want to go watch it. But like we said, it's such an integral part of Progress. It wasn't really something I felt like we could ignore. We could have easily talked about other feuds, but this is the feud associated with Progress, so it wasn't really something we could skip. Yep. Any other thoughts on that, or should we just go straight to the next bit?
I mean, if we're talking about things that put them on the map, I'd say Jim. Well, not Sterling. Is it Sterling? Yeah, it is Sterling.
Smallman.
Sterling is the one on YouTube.
Yes.
He's the YouTuber.
Yes.
I like Jim Sterling as well. Also into wrestling, and is the current what is the promotion? Valiant something
in America,
Star,
I think, innit?
Whatever.
Yeah.
Smallman was the first thing I saw of Progress when I went to Progress. He's the first thing anyone sees because he is, when I went to other shows and all the other shows I've been to, they haven't had a hype man come out. When you go to a big comedy gig, a smaller comedian comes up first to warm up the crowd.
Yeah.
When you go to a WWE house show, usually some backstage person on WWE who you've maybe seen in like one backstage interview but didn't make it to like the full time. So not like your like Kayla Braxton, not your I don't know, and name whoever, just a basic person comes out and then says, this kid is a big WWE fan. And then that's what's supposed to get the crowd hyped up. But you go to a progress gig. You hit the music, right? You hit his music at this point. He comes into the ring. The whole crowd is behind it. It was weird. It was like a cult. The first time I went.
Well,
I didn't know what the etiquette was. I didn't know what you were supposed to chant. I didn't know where you were supposed to clap. Yeah. But the entire crowd, you know, were sort of in on this, and then
well, like, you know, because like the whole thing is like, because I should point out, Smallman, despite the fact being a comedian, like he said many times he never really wanted to be essentially the face of Progress. That just kind of happened by accident because he's done TV work and things like that before, which is why he was often the one to do promotion if they had to do interviews and stuff like that. And that's sort of the only reason he became ring announcer is because they didn't have 50 quid spare on that first show to pay for a ring announcer, so he just had to kind of do it, and that just kind of stuck. But again, that kind of worked for their identity. So what would typically happen is he'll come out, and the fact like it gets the fans revved up anyway by the fact he'll first play a bit of introduction to For Whom the Bell Tolls by Metallica, and then later on he'd come out to I'm Scun by Idols, which is just like a perfect tune to get things ramped up. And yeah, what Smallman's shtick is before you get to matches, he will just basically warm up the crowd by like doing I guess like his stand-up skills. So typically he'll get people to put their hands up if they've not been through Progress before, and then basically pick on people throughout the crowd, and the crowd will all join in. So typically, if you say you haven't been to Progress before, they'll chant, "It's your round," but they'll also say hello to you as well. So it's all very nice.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely gets you hyped, and it makes you feel like you're more welcome. It's the kind of thing that a comedian does, and he comes out and he does a little bit of crowd work. Yeah. It's all just very lovely. And then, you know, you also have the almost in hindsight poorly chosen mantra of Progress, which is
so how does the full thing go? Well, because he basically revs them up by saying, you're like, drink what you want, shout what you want, but please be respectful of the people around you. And as always at Progress, there is one rule, and that one rule is this, and everyone will chant, don't be a dick.
Right.
And as we'll kind of move on to now, a lot of their mantras, they didn't fully live up to